On May 15, 2018, I spent the day watching a panel convened ostensibly to consider the relative qualifications for director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Full disclosure, I was there to speak on behalf of one of the candidates. By the time it was over, I wondered if I had been transported back 50 years or more. While male candidates were treated with great deference before, during, and after the hearing, the lone female candidate, retired TBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Marjorie Quinn, was subjected to a humiliating verbal attack and treated with inequity. In contrast with the male candidates, the committee members enjoyed a good old boy backslapping kind of conversation. During the session, panel member Jack Vaughn, arms waving, erupted with an attack on Quinn because she dared mention that TBI has some problems that need addressing. "You're coming across to me as somebody that rules by dictatorship," Vaughn exclaimed. He repeatedly interrupted and contradicted Ms. Quinn when she tried to respond, and questioned her ability to lead the TBI if she thought the TBI was not on the right track. Vaughn interrupted Quinn to take strong exception to her using the word crisis in reference to TBI. Ms. Quinn said she did not use that word. Vaughn shot back angrily, "Oh, yes, you did. I wrote it down." Here's what Ms. Quinn did say about crisis. "I can meet these challenges in the same way I built a response to the statewide human trafficking crisis. I assembled, empowered, and led large and diverse teams to accomplish the research and craft statewide policy, identified and managed multi-million-dollar programmatic budgets, and built relationships with the General Assembly to secure the necessary legislation and funding to meet the crisis head-on." Ms. Quinn spoke to the commission about crafting policy, building relationships, securing legislation, all things she had done during her 20 years at TBI. She used the word crisis to refer to the human trafficking crisis our state faces, not in reference to TBI. Jack Vaughn put words in Quinn's mouth that were not there. In fact, he maligned her as liar and dictator in ways that resemble an agenda to take a woman out of the running. By comparison, Vaughn recalled that another candidate served TBI for 21 years and said, "I think that is commendable." He went on to praise this candidate for his college GPA and that with all his service he, quote, "still had time to get married and have children." He asked another candidate whether he had ever arrested a UT football player. The panel seemed to congratulate as much as question male candidates, and some panel questions were more like statements extolling the candidates' virtues. It was clear the playing field was not level. Margie Quinn's treatment is reminiscent of the days when women were encouraged to remember their place. Unfortunately, there remain corners of public service that lag behind modern trends away from gender bias. As citizens, we will not stand for it. As women, we will not stand for it. And men, and you see there are men here today, they too will no longer allow this kind of blatant discrimination to continue. One such man is Cheatham County Sheriff Mike Breedlove, who also attended the hearing. He said she was viscerally and unfairly attacked, adding, "I now know what the Me Too movement is." We're so thankful for thoughtful and courageous men like Sheriff Breedlove, who stood up in the moment to call out unfair treatment and gender inequity. Let there soon be a day when government is not controlled by good old boys, but by truly good men and truly deserving women. As citizens of the state, we say to Marjorie Quinn, "We're so sorry this happened." The unfortunate incident cannot pass without calling attention to gender inequities across our state. It's a watershed moment when we say It is not acceptable to openly treat women differently. Let me make one thing very clear. The Tennessee Anti-Slavery Alliance, or TASA, speaks today not against the recommended candidates nor the TBI. We highly respect the work of the TBI. They've been excellent partners, and the selection and behavior of the committee was entirely out of their hands. We're not here to criticize any candidates or to say that Margie Quinn would have been the best candidate. That is not our job to decide. We're here today in defense of women who are victims of old school marginalization and abuse. While we cannot change the past, we certainly can change the future. 99% of all the human trafficking victims that we serve are female. How could that be, except that we have a culture that devalues females, young and old? Lack of respect for women gives courage to the sickest among us who would exploit girls for sex. At TASA, we work for systemic change, and that's exactly what we're doing here today. We need a change culture. The change needs to start today with both women and men. Ask yourselves, if this was your wife, sister, daughter, is this the way you would want her to be treated? What message does this kind of treatment give to our young girls today? This is about changing the culture for the next generation. Be new leaders who raise the standards of decency and equity in our state.
I'm not here to make any bold pronouncements today. Ruth Bader Ginsburg worked to assure that the we and we the people included women. This is 2018. It's been over 50 years since 1972, and the case that Ruth Bader Ginsburg argued in front of the Supreme Court, Frontiero versus Richardson. Judge Ginsburg also argued the Virginia military installation to ban the male admission policy. I'm here simply to ask the Tennessee General Assembly to place at least one woman on all committees that are making decisions such as this, so that we are fairly represented across the state and that women's voices be heard.
We had hundreds of people write or call the governor to just express the need for him to pay attention to the inequity of the proceedings. First of all, the selection itself, 5 white men, I think in their 70s, doesn't seem very representative of our state, and then just the inequity with which the one female candidate was treated. We asked him if he would consider reviewing the proceedings.
And what do you hope to accomplish if he does review the proceedings?
Well, ideally, I would like to see him make a decision to have a, I guess if it was in court, I'd say a retrial, to go ahead and have new proceedings in which every candidate is considered on a level playing field.
I'm sure you've had other things to work on, and this kind of just sprung up. Mm-hmm. How did it make you feel when you first heard about this?
I was actually there all day, and I was biting my tongue until it bled. It was an appalling thing to watch. And what I've said touches the tip of the iceberg. This kind of disparity went on all day long.
Are you worried that treatment like this will keep women from trying to interview for positions such as this or other positions as well?
Absolutely. Why would you work as hard as this candidate, who's very well qualified, if you are going to have absolutely no chance of getting the position simply because you're a female?